Let's take a look. Pizza with pineapple has been consumed in front of us. Yes, it has. It has. Let's get into our workshop mode. Let's crack open our DMGs. All right, you ready? Class. This is D&D school. Class. Open your DMGs to page 132, please. Class, we're going to begin. Come on now, no sleeping. You in the back? Yes. You lurking? Open your DMG. 132. All right, Diadems, we'll see you later. Come back when you can. All right, we're talking about treasure. We're talking about, well, more in particular, we're going to be talking about magical items. But reading about the various forms of treasures as a base won't hurt. Diadems, I'll let you off this time. You need to share with Volvo. But don't do it again, or I'm going to have to send you to the principal. There you go. There are some sheet supplements for you. All right, here we go. On 135, magic items are gleaned from the hordes of conquered monsters or discovered in long-lost vaults. Such items grant capabilities a character could rarely have otherwise, or they complement their owner's capabilities in wondrous ways. Each magic item has a rarity: common, uncommon, rare, very rare, or legendary. Common magic items such as a potion of healing are the most plentiful. Some legendary items such as the apparatus of Qualish are unique. The game assumes that the secrets of creating those powerful items arose centuries ago and were then gradually lost as a result of wars, cataclysms, and mishaps. Even uncommon items can't be easily created. Thus, many magic items are well-preserved antiquities. Now, you see what they did here and where it differs from Eberron. The base DMG has a cultural presumption built into it. If your world doesn't operate the same way, then there you go. Change the rules. Adapt your culture and economy accordingly. We are under treasure magic items. Page 135. Rarity provides a rough measure of an item's power relative to other magic items. Each rarity corresponds to character level as shown in the magic item rarity table. A character doesn't typically find a rare magic item, for example, until around 5th level. That said, rarity shouldn't get in the way of your campaign story. If you want a Ring of Invisibility to fall into the hands of a first level character, so be it. When has a Ring of Invisibility ever fallen into the hands of a first level character? Come on. That sounds like a dumb story, doesn't it? Who would ever write a series of novels around a Ring of Invisibility falling into the hands of a first level character? Come on. No doubt a great story will arise from that event. Wink. If your campaign allows for trade in magic items, rarity can also help you set prices for them. As the DM, you determine the value of an individual magic item based on its rarity. Suggested values are provided in the magic item rarity table. The value of a consumable item, such as a potion or scroll, is typically half the value of a permanent item of the same rarity. Yeah, completely unrealistic. Estwell and English Muffin, right? That's so dumb. A ring of invisibility. How broken is that? Like, you'd have some Mary Sue character running around the world, completely abusing it. Okay. Buying and selling, I'm not worried about that. We're not going to get into, right now, identifying or a variant rule about identification. Attunement is just that. You have 3 attunement slots, and you have to form a bond with it. I mean, you can wear 10 magic items on you if you want, but you can only attune with 3 of them, and some magic items require attunement for you to get full or partial benefits from them. Yeah, right, Estwild? I mean, that's just lazy writing at that point. Oh, did I say English Muffin? Sorry, I must have had English Muffins on the mind. English Mudkip. Not the worst thing I've been called. Well, you know what? English Muffins are still... They're very wonderful things. They're very warm, and they can be quite buttery. And so who wouldn't like a good English Muffin? Now, if we're talking magic items, we have to also consider a cursed item. Some magic items bear curses that bedevil their users, sometimes long after a user has stopped using an item. A magic item's description specifies whether the item is cursed. Most methods of identifying items, including the identify spell, fail to reveal such a curse, although lore might hint at it. A curse should be a surprise to the item's user when the curse's effects are revealed. Attunement to a cursed item can't be ended voluntarily unless the curse is broken first, such as with the remove curse spell. Or, you as a DM might have to have the person fulfill some other requirement. You know, go on a quest, or a remove curse spell is too generic. This is a very particular curse that needs an item of some kind in order to remove. So there we go. It's all good, says English Mudkip. And yes, they are delicious. So occasionally, if I ever call you an English Muffin again, just roll with it. Rolls, muffins, baked goods. I cracker me up. Ah, baked goods. Well, if he didn't like it, he got rid of it then. You don't have to keep magic items. Alright, categories. Each magic item belongs to a category. Armor, potions, rings, rods, scrolls, staffs. Or, we're talking about alternate plurals in the prior segment. I could also accept staves. S-T-A-V-E-S as the plural for a staff. You have one staff. You have many staves. Kind of like you have one dwarf, but you have many dwarves. Because English is English. Aren't we fun like that? Like an invisible ring that's cursed makes it only affect the wearer's clothes. Yeah. And so a merchant will sell it and say, this is a ring of invisibility. And your suspicion, you cast Identify. Sure, it'll identify as a curse of invisibility. Or as a ring of invisibility. It won't tell you that it just affects the clothing and armor you wear. Now, that could be fun if you have a fighter or barbarian that's very confident in themselves. Think about a furious naked person on the front line. You know, all the goblins are going to be like, "No, get that person, they're naked." And suddenly, arrows just deflect off of this person's body. As they're running around like in this, naked wild person at the front line, swinging at everything. And yet, so they're prime target because, kill the naked person. They're easy to hit. Yeah. Meanwhile, swords are bouncing off of hips. Arrows are just deflecting off of butts and calf muscles. You try and swing a warhammer at at a person's chest, and it just sort of it bounces off, and you wonder what's going on. What sorcery is this? And so it may be a curse in a way. But you know what? That's a good way to get attention on the battlefield and to even draw fire from your other squishies. Happened to a human Amazonian barbarian in a tavern she rolled with. Alternatively, it could only affect you, so you're just a walking suit of armor. Hey, yeah, there's that too, Dark Wolf. You become invisible, but none of the stuff you have. Unless an armor's description says otherwise, armor must be worn for its magic to function. Some suits of magic armor specify the type of armor they are, such as chainmail or plate. If a magic armor doesn't specify its armor type, you may choose the type or determine it randomly. Different kind of magical liquids are grouped in the category of potions. Brews made from enchanted herbs, water from magical fountains, oils that are applied to a creature or object. Most potions consist of 1 ounce of liquid. Potions are consumable magic items. Drinking a potion or administering a potion to another character requires an action. Remember that. If you're DM. And this is also why Torchic brought up for our brewing domain. Couldn't you just mass create healing potions? Sure. At least as we wrote it in our first draft. But you can carry 100 healing potions on you, but it's consuming your action to take the potions. And in Pokemon, think about it in Pokemon ways if that helps. Using healing items in combat can be very risky because you're at risk of taking more damage than you're recovering, or just floating and consuming all your items. Applying an oil might take longer as specified in its description. Once used, a potion takes effect immediately, and it's used up. Rings. Magic rings offer an amazing array of powers to those lucky enough to find them. Unless a ring's description says otherwise, a ring must be worn on a finger or a similar digit for the ring's magic to function. And so you can be creative. Are you a tiefling? You might be able to put a ring on a horn or put a ring at the end of your tail. As a DM, you might allow for someone to wear a nose ring or an earring, counting as a ring. Rods. A scepter or just a heavy cylinder. A magic rod is typically made of metal, wood, or bone. It's about 2 or 3 feet long, 1 inch thick, and 2 to 5 pounds. Remember, that was a type of magical implement that was discussed in the Eberron supplement we went over. Fluffy Sheep says, I like cursed items to appear only when world appropriate. The treasure in the mummy's tomb, good chance of curses. Some items you got from a villain that was using it, unlikely to be cursed. Win it in a poker game, could go either way. Yeah. As a DM, I hope that you won't play like a petty vengeance game or a gotcha game with your players. Or if you do spring a curse on them, kind of like a trap or a hazard, that you would be using it appropriately in the context of your story. Or somehow, making it relevant and incorporated instead of just saying, haha, you have a handicap now, and then saying, well, good luck with the rest of the game, suckers. Most scrolls are spells stored in written form. While a few bear unique incantations that produce potent wards, whatever its contents, a scroll is a roll of paper, sometimes attached to wooden rods, and typically kept in a safe in a tube of ivory, jade, metal, leather, or wood. A scroll is a consumable magic item. Whatever the nature of the magic contained in the scroll, unleashing that magic requires using an action to read the scroll. When its magic has been invoked, the scroll can't be used again. Its words fade or it crumbles into dust. Any creature that can understand a written language can read the arcane script on a scroll and attempt to activate it. So scrolls, by default in the DMG, are open for the everyman to use. Or attempt to use. A magic staff is about 5 or 6 feet long. Staves vary very widely in appearance. Some are nearly equal diameter throughout and smooth. Others are gnarled and twisted. Some are made of wood. Others are composed of polished metal or crystal. Depending on the material, a staff weighs between 2 and 7 pounds. Unless a staff's description says otherwise, a staff can be used as a quarterstaff. I mean, think of your classic wizard, right? They'll carry a staff. They'll use it, for walking. They might have physical combat with it, or they'll use it to cast spells out of, or using as a focus, as we discovered in our Eberron supplement. A magic wand is about 15 inches long and crafted of metal, bone, or wood. It is tipped with metal, crystal, stone, or some other material. And there are, obviously, weapons, which are just that. And wondrous items include worn items such as boots, belts, capes, gloves, bags, carpets, crystal balls, figurines, etc. It's a catch-all category for everything that's not specifically something that came before it. A magic item meant to be worn must be donned in the intended fashion. Boots go on the feet, gloves on the hands, hats and helmets on the head, etc. In most cases, a magic item that's meant to be worn can fit a creature regardless of size or build. Many magic garments are made to be easily adjustable, or they magically adjust themselves to the wearer. That is a convenient, also catch-all, that, maybe many of you as DMs might know, that the common conception is that magical items will resize themselves to fit the user of the item. So if a halfling finds a dead giant king's magical crown that can cast, I don't know, like detect evil and good. If the halfling intends to wear this dead giant's crown, the crown will, you're gonna hold, you're gonna hold shift and then scale down the item, so it's proportional. You're gonna hold shift and scale down the item diagonally to fit the halfling. Does that have to be the case? That's up for you as a DM to determine. If the giant's crown doesn't resize, then the party's going to have to wonder, what are they going to do about it? What can they do? Are they going to have to destroy it, melt it down? Sort of like dust it into some sort of arcane magical essence? Can 4 of them fit their heads inside the crown, and as long as they're all walking together as a group, and the crown is touching all their heads simultaneously, they share the benefits. Have fun with it. The halfling could wear it as a belt. And it says down here, you know, rare exceptions exist. For example, armor made by the drow might fit elves only. Right? Why would the drow want their weapons or armor to fall into the hands of non-elves? I mean, non-drow specifically, but especially non-elves. You know, why would you want a big, bulky half-orc to wear your armor? Although that said, if you're running a half-orc and you're not, you know, if you're more of a dex-based character, maybe you're not so heavy, you're not so bulky, you might be able to squeeze into it, even though it doesn't resize. It's really up to you and your DM to discuss. Okay, so there are variant rules to mixing potions and some mishaps that can occur with scrolls. It's up to you to really determine, do you want to play with those rules? You know, have a little bit of risk and reward. If you fail to, you know, pronounce the words on the scroll correctly or pass a certain check, then maybe you get a little magical contact buzz, or it zaps you, or just the spell doesn't go off that turn. Dwarves might make item usable only by dwarf-sized and dwarf-shaped characters. When a non-humanoid tries to wear an item, use your discretion as to whether it functions as intended. A ring placed on a tentacle might work, but a Yuan-Ti with a snake-like tail instead of legs can't wear boots. So class, read the details. I'm going over some of the basic tenets of this chapter with you. There is a lot of flexibility for you as a DM here, with variant rules and other considerations. You can use command words. You have consumables. Items are used up when they're activated. A potion or elixir must be swallowed and oil applied. The writing vanishes from a scroll when it's read. Once you use a consumable, item loses its magic. It gets into, you know, you can cast a spell from the same item. I don't want to go over every detail in here with you for what we're doing, because I actually want to make a magical item out of the book here with you all. But it's all here for you, and I at least want to reference it to you so you have an easy way of remembering, oh yeah, here's this. How do I want to play with magic item creation in my world? Or use, if not creation. Okay, we're getting into the chart that I want to use our random number generator on. What if they put boots on their hands? Gets into kind of a gray area with items that, yeah. And that's why it does say, look, talk to your DM about this and come up with, you know, will a ring function on a tiefling's tail? Or a ring, a ring fit onto, the horns? Or consider this. We talked about, tieflings that have, sort of satyr legs, right? They don't have traditional feet. They actually have like the backwards knees and the hooves. Will you allow them to wear boots? Or for certain wondrous items. Like there's horseshoes that can give a steed a certain property. Well, if you're running a tiefling that has hooves because of their ancestry, can they, maybe they can't wear boots, but you'll let them take magic items that are meant for animal hooves or feet. And that closes off some options, but it also opens up other options. And wouldn't that be interesting? I ran into that in my Sunday campaign, a tabletop campaign, where I had a minotaur who had hooves, and they ran across a slain centaur. This is like the super abbreviated version. Ran across a slain centaur who was wearing quite literally horseshoes of the Zephyr, I think they were. And I said, well, look, I'd be willing to let you use these horseshoes. They're going to have to be adapted to you because your hooves are different. But if you find a way to adapt the horseshoes, I'll let you wear them because you have the feet to be able to do so. Or your DM might say, well, none of you have hooves, but you find horseshoes of the Zephyr. Depending on how clever you are, I might let you remake them into boots for a humanoid and get that effect. And so they find a way to somehow move the enchantment or disenchant. Some people might call it like dusting, or something along those lines. And then they'll move those properties into another medium for them. I've heard people rule you can't wear a headband of intellect and a headpiece of some sort. It could be DM discretion. I mean, they're both head slots, and I could see it work either way. Or you can wear them both physically, but you have to choose which one you're activating at a particular time. Traditionally, you can't wear two items on the same body part. Is that actually traditionally from D&D rules, or is it a video game thing? I.e. item slots. It's from original D&D. Video games got it from there. Yeah, look, this is a storytelling game. Can you explain it in the story? And then roll with it. Okay, let's make a magic item, and let's build a story around it, because the story, like we're talking about, interact with the DM. This is a part of the world. Someone in the world made this. All right, so we are going to make a magic item. Creator, intended user. Detail from history. Right? We're just going through the tables. Minor property. Quirk. You don't have to use all of these for every single magic item, but let's exercise the table that we have available to us. All right, we're up here. We got this nice, industrial music going on in the background. Its creator, we're going to roll a d20 and find out. 6. And the intended user is 17. A detail from its history is on a D8. So we're going to go 7. A property it has is a D20. So we rolled an 8. And then lastly, a D12 for a quirk that it has. 10. Using this for a starter, let's see what we're working with. All right, it's creator number 6. A dragon. This item is made from scales and talons shed by a dragon. Perhaps it incorporates precious metals and gems from the dragon's hoard. It grows slightly warm when within 120 feet of a dragon. Do you have to use this verbatim? No, not necessarily. Do you want to include that warm property? You could disclude it if you want. This is simply a prompt. Think about things like this. Or if it doesn't grow warm, maybe you can make it specific. It spits out little sparks if it's next to a blue dragon, or it sheds light if it's by a red dragon because it's like heat and fire. There's all sorts of things that you can do with this as a prompt up in your noggin. All right. Who created it? Or what was it? Who was intended to use it? The intended user is 17. Ooh, a fiend. The item is... All right, so I guess if we went with the creation, the intended recipient here... So if we know what it's made from, let's take the intended recipient as the aesthetic because it was created for it. The item is, we'll say, colored black. And features blasphemous runes and lewd carvings throughout. It says it's warm to the touch and feet. Well, so with the dragon, right? Oh, apparently, you're always around a dragon if we're literally combining the two. Celestials find the item's presence repulsive. Now, does this mean a fiend can only wield this item? Perhaps, if we want. Or we just say that this is, it's made from dragon bones and scales, but it has a fiendish accoutrement to it. Because that was the intended user, but hey, it ended up in your hands. I don't know, maybe you're a tiefling, maybe you can use this if it's fiend only. And that would be a DM call. All right, a detail from its history. Oh, shoot. What was the number? Did I over... 7. Okay. Number 7 is... oh, sinister. Ooh, we're making something kind of evil here. This item is linked to a deed of great evil, such as a massacre or assassination. It might have a name or be closely associated with a villain who used it. Anyone familiar with the item's history is likely to treat it and its owner with suspicion. What minor property does it have? 8. A hidden message. A message is hidden somewhere on the item. It might be visible Only at a certain time of the year, under the light of one phase of the moon, or in a specific location. Right? If this is evil, maybe the item has to have, you know, you have to dip it into, or you have to, like, paint it red with the blood of a freshly sacrificed virgin or something like that. It burns a hole in your pocket and falls to the ground if near a green dragon. You also take 1 point acid damage. Yes, you could have a little effect like that. Like, remember, think of Orcrist from Lord of the Rings. It glowed every time goblins and orcs were nearby. The dragon and the fiend could be one and the same. Tiamat. Hey, TJ. That is true. Victor is apparently going nuts. Fluffy Sheep says, I don't know if intended user is supposed to be a hard limit, but it often comes with a drawback that would be irrelevant to that type of creature. 8-Bit Emmy, you're digging this? Hey, and look, random creation. This is probably one of the few corners of Twitch where RNG is appreciated and is expected, because we can use it in powerful ways. Ergo, like what you're saying, Fluffy, it causes sunlight sensitivity, but it's intended for the drow. Plus, it's a good limiter, right? If you wield this drow weapon, it will give you sunlight sensitivity because, you know, you shouldn't be using it outside of the Underdark, right? It's sort of a lock on that weapon. Estwild, Magic Dragon Scale, will I find the treasure hoard this week? Outlook, unlikely. And a quirk. Pardon. Number 10. It's possessive. Whoops. There we go. The item demands attunement when first wielded or worn, and it doesn't allow its bearer to attune to other items. Other items already attuned to the bearer remain, so their attunement ends. Or remain so until their attunement ends. All right, so now we've created the basis, right? This is like looking at the background of a character. We are looking at the background of this magic item that we're creating, right? So it's made from dragon parts, but its intended user was someone fiendish. It has a sinister, it was probably used in some kind of assassination. In fact, it could have even been used to take down a dragon. Right, it's made from dragon parts, and Pokemon teaches us dragons are weak to dragons. Duh. And clearly Pokemon is D&D. So, we also see it has a hidden message of some kind. So it's infamous, and it carries... Maybe it carries the names of dragons it has killed, or... It has a name of the next dragon it was meant to kill on it. And it's almost a quest-giving item. Because under the right circumstances, perhaps if some kind of draconic blood, which might even include kobolds. Yes, you're enabling kobolds to think that they're dragons, but you find this as a first-level adventurer, you go out bonking kobolds, and kobold or dragonborn blood gets on this thing, it might activate the name of its next target, or something else. Or reveal coordinates, or both. And, for this information, it demands a price. No, unless you have anything else currently equipped, that's it. When you wield me, you're done. Okay. We're not going to worry about the magic item tables. Right? This is pre-generated. Xanathar's Guide to Everything has an awesome, same thing but different quality of magic item generation table. I suggest giving it a look if you have that book. But there's all kinds of ways that you can randomly generate treasure parcels. By the way, many people think brooms of flying break your game. They might. Again, consider the culture, the economy, and what all is happening. Magic items A to Z. So if you want to use something and have it as a base, you can refer back. Lots of fun magic items in the DMG. So we can base this off of something that already exists. Or, let's continue. I hope you have your books open, class. Come on, this is D&D school. Your assignment, you have to pick one magic item, and and you have to write a at least a 2-page history on the magic item. Make sure you include its creator, its intended user, etc., and so forth. And so you're like, oh, I'm going to pick Plate Armor of Etherealness, and then your homework is to go through, and for that Plate Armor of Etherealness, I want you to write about a quirk, a property, a detail from history, its intended user, and its creator. Haha, you thought you were out of school? I got you good. That's why you're here. Alright, so potions and tokens and swords. Rings and all sorts of good stuff. Robes. Right, because what we made here, this can apply to anything that's already been generated. But let's make our own. Using random tables, not that we can't just pull something out of our brains. You're getting a very good scale, though, like a power scale. Should this be common or uncommon, or even very rare? Find an item that's similar, and use that as a basis. Oh, there's a tentacle rod. Those are fun. Different wands. A Wand of Wonder. Wands of Wonder are a lot of fun. This is something I almost see Bright picking up at some point in time in the Tuesday game. I need this due date. Volvo, you have to turn it in by the end of the show on Friday. And then I'll make sure to then we'll go over your magic items or over your submissions on Saturday. How about that? I can't do this. Making a spell skill character is too difficult for my brain. Can you do it for you? I cannot do it right now, Victor. As that's not the current topic that I want to discuss, and I would have to actually go through and explore more to try and understand it. But converting 3rd edition to 5th isn't always easy. So I really can't do that for you right now, Victor. Irony says, as Dungeon Master, items are fun for players, but they also impact game mechanics. What is most important? Game impact? Your Ring of Detect Magic always, forever, is a game wrecker. It can. I mean, but if you look, Irony, a Warlock in 5th edition can get Detect Magic at will. And even to a lesser extent, a lot of wizards can just take it as a ritual and it never consumes a slot. So they have Detect Magic at will every 10 minutes. Yeah, the Fluffy with those emotes. Alright, so all sorts of weapons. Now, again, if we want to hit up all of the tables, Sentient magic items can be a thing. In older editions, they used to have something called an ego score, which was how assertive its personality was. Magic item doesn't have to be sentient to have hidden message or the possessive quality. It could just be the nature of the magic itself. But let's say we wanted to create something with sentience. You know, this is created with dragon stuff. It's meant for fiends. It seems to be quite a notorious item that we're making. So why not give it some sentience? Some magic items possess sentience and personality. Such an item might be possessed, haunted by the spirits of a previous owner, or self-aware thanks to the magic used to create it. In any case, the items behave like a character, complete with personality quirks, ideals, bonds, and sometimes flaws. A sentient item might be a cherished ally to its wielder, or a continual thorn in its side. Most sentient items are weapons. Other kinds of items can manifest sentience, but consumable items such as potions and scrolls are never sentient. The DMG says that if you want to make a sentient potion and have a moral conundrum of, do I drink this sentient potion and end its existence in order to cure whatever 5 hit points on me? Have fun with it. Sentient magic items function as NPCs under the DM's control. Any activated property of the item is under the item's control, not its wielder's. As long as the wielder maintains a good relationship with the item, the wielder can access those properties normally. Does this sound familiar? Does this sound like the docents? Or the docents? That the Warforged can get embedded into them? If the relationship is strained, the item can suppress its activated properties or even turn them against the wielder. When you decide to make a magic item sentient, you should create the item's persona in the same way you would create an NPC, with a few exceptions described here. Abilities. A sentient magic item has intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores. You can choose the item's abilities or determine them randomly. To determine them randomly, we'll go through standard NPC procedure for that. The sentient item, so here, we're going to make a list here. NPC traits here. Sentient item has some ability to communicate either by sharing its emotions, broadcasting its thoughts telepathically, or speaking aloud, which is true. You can choose how it communicates. Roll in the following table. So, communication. Let's roll a percentile. 94. The item can speak, read, and understand one or more languages. In addition, the item can communicate telepathically with any character that carries or wields it. Bye, Victor. Yeah, no, don't drink me, bro. Yeah, right, S-Weld. Yeah, please don't drink me, I have kids. Yeah, kind of like an Alice in Wonderland thing, huh? But maybe the potion would want you to drink it. Like the food and restaurant at the end of the universe. Ah! A sentient spellbook that keeps adjusting its pages so you can't find the spell you want. Yeah, it has some sort of compulsive personality that, you know, on one day it says, no, all the spells must be arranged alphabetically. No, all the, on the next day, no, all the spells must be arranged by their material casting component. And so like every day it's rearranging your spells along some sort of new way to try and perfect spell access. Volvo would fight that book. Okay, senses. With sentience comes awareness. A sentient item can perceive its surroundings out to a limited range. You can choose its senses or roll in the following table. Let's roll a d4. 3. Hearing and normal vision out to 120 feet. The potion wants you to drink it, but makes it extremely awkward. Yeah, you want me and you don't you? Come on, you know I'm gonna wiggle around and make you feel really good. Just put me in your mouth. What are you afraid of? Come on. And like, see, you have this like wall of magic items, and you're just like, Dude, do I need 5 hit points that badly? So you come here often. Alright, alignment. A sentient magic item has an alignment. Its creator or nature might suggest an alignment. If not, you can pick one. You know what? Let's roll randomly and see where it takes us. Percentile. 39. It is chaotic good. Can we create a story around this? How do we have a chaotic good, sort of sinister, demonic item? Use the information on creating NPCs in Chapter 4 to develop a sentient item's mannerisms, personality, and we'll do that. NPC traits here, right? Just as a nice little holder. And let's go for a special purpose. You can give a sentient item an objective it pursues, perhaps to the exclusion of all else. As long as the wielder's use of the item aligns with that special purpose, the item remains cooperative. Deviating from this course might cause conflict between the wielder and the item, and can even cause them to prevent the use of activated properties. Let's roll a d10. 10. Creator Seeker. The item seeks its creator and wants to understand why it was created. Eswald says maybe all potions should be sentient. Maybe all potions are sentient, but they don't have a means to communicate. And suddenly when your character realizes that changes everything. Awkward potion from Minecraft. It says Forsaken, Eswald, Fallen Paladin, and Cleric Spirit, or Broken. Yeah, that could be. Alright, yeah, maybe somewhere along the line of murdering, it actually got bonked too hard. Irony Golem 5th Edition mechanic I will be exploring is this: spend a key or hit dice power point between rests. I can give you boots that let you evasion leap for cover like a rogue, a sword that has disarming blow, or a blow that doubles or triples effective range for a hit dice investment. Yeah, soul got sucked out of a body and shoved inside. Yeah, maybe instead of killing dragons as it was intended to do, someone used it to kill someone else. And that was a property that wasn't really accounted for, since it was made to just kill. It was just made to kill dragons or something, and or it killed a dragonborn. So it could identify the target as a dragon, but it had more of a humanoid soul inside of it, and so instead of maybe destroying or consuming the soul is just sort of like coating it like a paint and providing an influence. And now it's stuck in this wretched, like, miserable body. It has the logic of, I kill dragons, it helps people, but has very unethical methods and suggestions. Fluffy Sheep says, maybe the artificer sacrificed a chaotic good paladin or cleric to make the item, but it was Christmas, and now the hero's soul is trapped in the item. Darkwolf says, another Inktober pick on Discord. Oh, woo, you're just, you're catching up like I'm an absolute mad woman, Darkwolf. You absolute mad woman. Estwild says, there's a sword in Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere book world that constantly compels its user to do good, but it has no concept of what good is. So every wielder that uses it, it asks if they're doing good, and is happy when the wielder says yes. Yeah, hey, that's an interesting take. You know, you're telling it that, yeah, of course you're fulfilling what you meant to do. Good is, what I'm doing is good. Yeah, killing the king is murder, but he's clearly a tyrant and a bad guy, in my opinion. All right, it gives some example properties. By the way, like Wave and Whelm, These are items you can find in other adventures or books about them. For example, if you love Wave and Whelm, White Plume Mountain is the dungeon to go to. Black Razor exists in D&D lore. And then, of course, we come up to different artifacts, which can have minor and major beneficial properties, or minor or major detrimental properties. Lots of interesting stuff. I mean, here we have the Book of Vile Darkness. Here we have, let's see. Oh, Vecna's Eye is in here too, if I recall correctly. By the way, if you want a little bit of fun, I don't know, self-reference, I guess, take a look at the 3rd edition Book of Exalted Deeds. In 3rd edition, they did a really cool thing with the covers of the books, where they made all the hardcover books look like they were, like metal and gem-bound tomes on the cover. Check out the Book of Exalted Deeds and the Book of Vile Darkness in 3rd edition. Compare it to what you see here in 5th edition, and enjoy. Yes, the Eye and Hand of Vecna. There's also the Sword of Kos, which is associated... Yeah, here it is, actually, which is associated with that lore. So, I mean, if we wanted to, we could really go in and, and we could create an artifact if we didn't want to just stop here. A sword versus orcs, power nothing. Each orc you kill grants +1 damage for 10 rounds. Cumulative maximum none bonus. Yeah, see, you could make a Bane-style weapon against something in particular. Alright, so aside from putting in some NPC traits, we have a really good basis for a magic item. And in fact, given our history, we can have the effects be whatever we really want them to be. It could be something like a sword versus orcs, or it could be this dragon, it was an evil dragon-killing weapon with an infamous history, and it just so happens that a wayward dragonborn, or heck, what if a wayward kobold was actually killed? Or even, what if the kobold got a hold of this? Like, I don't know, a dragon was injured by the blade, and it flew off away from the would-be assassin. But due to the vile nature of this blade, it died back in its lair. 100 years later, a kobold stumbles across the lair of this dragon, and obviously, kobolds are dragons too, but they love to worship their bigger brothers. Finds this dagger or this sword or whatever we want it to be. It could be a chakram. It could be a spear. It could be some sort of dragon lance. I don't know. That's a dumb name. A dragon lance? No, that's off the table. We're not going to entertain that here. But the kobold finds it and is in awe, and it's sort of like holding it up, like, oh, this is the great weapon of my, and whoop, and fumbles, and it stabs the kobold, and the kobold, only being quasi-dragon, instead, is destroyed by it, but there's that unique effect. And so now, another 100 years or whatever pass, and adventurers come across and find find a slain dragon, by the way, but a kobold who apparently was like maybe tried to pull it out or something, and finds a kobold that apparently slayed a dragon itself with this weapon. And they're like, oh, this is a mighty dragon slaying. It's kind of weird that a kobold would be doing it. And then they recover this item that then very greedily wants to be the only item the wielder has, and has the personality of this poor kobold that would just wanted to venerate in good faith and spirit one of its slain cousins. A sword that gets +1 to hit every time you miss, no max, resets each hit. That would be very powerful, Irony Golem. I'm not saying it's a bad item, but it would be very powerful because at some point it would, it would guarantee results, which I mean, it would increase overall damage per round for that person, let alone the party. I guess depending on how it's used. Eswild, how dare you, Maddie? I'm coming through the monitor at me. For what, Eswild? What are you coming at me for? Hey, Dork Immortal. As long as the sentient potion doesn't beg to be consumed while saying inappropriate and uncomfortable things, like this shield I read about on some forum, it would want to be used, crying out very happily and saying very uncomfortable things while being hit. Oh, yeah, you know. Yeah, like, yeah, just, you know, block with me harder, etc. Apparently made the attacking creature awkwardly withdraw, though, after an equally awkward exchange of looks. Yeah, so you just have some O-face painted onto a shield, and it just cries out. And you know what? Dork Immortal, those are battle tactics that you see used elsewhere. If any of you have played Metal Gear Solid 4, there is a type of robot inside of that game called a gecko. And the gecko is kind of like a rectangular weapon platform on two sort of animalistic legs. And it kind of jumps around and is very nimble with toes that are kind of like fingers. So it already looks a little awkward. But, oh, Dragonlance. Yep, I gotcha, Estwild, because, yeah, gotcha. But the looks alone aren't enough to make people uncomfortable. One of the things that these geckos do in MGS4 is they moo like cows in the middle of combat as they're leaping around and tearing people apart with their toes or shooting them with guns. And the reason for that is very much psychological warfare. I mean, think of common ways of, you know, banners, brightly colored banners, war drums and trumpet signals and shouting, or, you know, like everyone in the rank turns around and lifts their kilts back and moons the opposing party to demoralize them. Psychological warfare is a part of warfare. So if you have, as Dork Immortal was describing, a very amorous and masochistic shield that, you know, is telling you to, you know, smack me harder, or, you know, block with me harder, that can cause some psychological effects in combat. Because who's expecting that, right? You're going in all macho, like this is a battle of, you know, of life and death. All my skills are going to be put on the line. I'm going to be a hero. And then suddenly your shield goes, oh, or something along those lines. Is that the stuff legends are made of? For the attacker, let alone the defender? How many times can you miss before you get killed? You will miss 7 times. Like an ED 209, only more chicken-like. 8-Bit says, I had a sword that wanted blood all the time and would whisper it. Yeah. There, you know, something, so an effect like that. If you draw me from your scabbard, I better taste blood before you put me back. In fact, I think the Sword of Kos has something like that. Hey, an orb of dragon kind? I don't know, that sounds a little OP, kind of dumb. It's probably one of these, like, dragon lancy things. I don't know, let's just skip over the orb of dragon kind. Here we go, Sword of Kos. Sentient, chaotic, evil weapon, intelligent 15, 13, 16. Good story behind it. I actually handed out a version of the Sword of Kos to someone in one of my at my Sunday game. I think they got it around level 10. It was someone who never actually used the sword. They just talked to it because it was sentient and used it to cast a couple spells, but they never actually used the sword. If the sword isn't bathed in blood within 1 minute of being drawn from its scabbard, its wielder must make a DC 15 charisma saving throw. On a successful save, the wielder takes 3d6 psychic damage. On a failed save, the wielder is dominated by the sword, as if by the Dominate Monster spell, and the sword demands that it be bathed in blood. The spell's effect ends when the sword's demand is met. So we've gone through a lot of history. We've created an item, and we haven't even had to discuss stats. Yes, we can talk about stats, but much like creating a character, we've just made an entire story behind something. But why don't we take about another break? Let's take about another 5-10 minute break, and go get something to drink. If you have a cat, go get your cat. And when we come back, I guess we'll throw in a couple details, and we'll be in part 3. It's open conversation. We'll have fun. We could talk about all sorts of stuff. So, BRB, everyone.